When Frank first joined Tottenham, many were apprehensive about the change of style at the football club. Many believed that Thomas Frank set up his teams to be defensive, to not press. But if you'd watched Brentford over the last few years, you'd know that they were extremely aggressive without the ball at many moments throughout games. Thomas Frank has stated many times in his career that the biggest risk is to take no risks, and we've seen that so far at Tottenham. Spurs have been one of the best pressing teams in the Premier League so far this season, and here's why. Here were a few examples of Tottenham pressing under Ange Postecoglou. 9 times out of 10 in the Australians' 2 seasons, 2 players would close down the man with the ball. If they were aggressive and quick enough, they would win it high up the pitch and immediately have an attack in transition. But if it was sloppy, if it wasn't perfectly executed, the opposition could play it through those 2 players and immediately have an overload. In the first season, the players were up for it. The press was more organised and it worked. But as we saw last season, teams were cutting through Spurs so easily. The 2 players were being passed in between, and so many times Spurs were caught out and overloaded by the opposition. Here are a few examples of Tottenham pressing so far this season under Thomas Frank. Most of the time, Spurs will press the opposition man for man, especially in their own box. And Spurs so far this season have also tried to force the opposition's defensive midfielder or midfielders behind their press to give them less options to play out. One of the big differences between the 2 ways of pressing is that under Ange Postecoglou, Spurs would aim to press more in wide areas than in central ones due to the inverted fullbacks. This would be in order for the wingers to win the ball wide, play it into the fullbacks, the striker, the attacking midfielder, who could then cause problems. Under Thomas Frank, it's been pressing more centrally in order to try and give it to the wingers wide, who Thomas Frank wants to cross in the ball. We've seen this countless times this season where Spurs have won it centrally, played it wide to Mohamed Kudus, who's put in a great cross for someone in the middle to get on the end of. Ange Postecoglou's press at Spurs was heavily reliant on positional awareness, knowing exactly where to be no matter where the opposition players are or what they're doing. Thomas Frank's press so far this season has been quite different. It's been heavily reliant on man marking as we spoke about, but also simply hard work, grit and determination. And that is why Pape Matar Sarr has been so crucial to Tottenham's success so far this season. His work rate, his discipline and his grit to just win the ball high up has led to so many great chances from Tottenham Hotspur so far this season when they've pressed the opposition. The new pressing style under Thomas Frank is another reason why Spurs have been so hard to score against so far this season. Because it's man for man, it's easier for the Spurs players to track the opposition's runs if they do play out. Whereas last season, it was difficult too. When we were doubling up on players with the ball, if they played out, they would have an overload and we'd be sprinting back. With the inverted fullbacks as well, under Ange Postecoglou, the wide areas were often free. Yet with the fullbacks pressing less under Thomas Frank, they can track the wingers, stopping the opposition's pace in those wide areas. The fullbacks are also crucial to stepping in when it comes to the opposition playing long balls when they're under pressure, and Spencer's been especially good at this so far this season. If the opposition decide not to play it wide long and decide to go more central, that's where Romero can step in. He loves a duel in the air and on the ground where he steps up into the midfield and wins it high. This is what Thomas Frank has done so well so far this season, played to his team's strengths. This team are not fantastic when it comes to ability. They're not technically great players, but they have a good work rate, they're versatile, and if you get them in duels, they're very good at winning them. So that is how Thomas Frank has structured his press. It's duel driven, it's turning everything into a 1v1 situation, and it's led to so many goals and also led to less being conceded because it's hard for teams to play out. And if they do, because it's man for man, it's easy for Spurs to track their runners, as I said earlier in the video. Last season, when Tottenham pressed, it was easy for the opposition to play out as there was so much space to play into. And when they did, they would 9 times out of 10 have an overload, whether it be a 5v3, a 4v2, a 4v3. the opposition would have more attacking players than Spurs had defenders. Whereas under Thomas Frank, this man-for-man style of pressing means that every short pass, every long ball that the opposition play turns into a duel, a 1v1. And if Spurs have the work rate, if Spurs have the determination, they win it. Thank you guys for watching this video. Take care of yourselves. And as always and forever, come on, you Spurs.